Well, the city of St. Petersburg, Florida, and the Trop has been through a lot since we last covered the topic in late 2023. In a shocking turn of events, Tropicana Field has become a means of survival for the Rays. And the most annoying part is that now a stadium that everyone expected to be wiping off the face of the earth in a matter of years now requires over $50 million in repairs, and its potential replacement remains potential. In our first video, we covered the Rays' history in Tampa and the history of Tropicana Field, why the Trop has been such a problematic venue, and the many attempts at replacing it. After Stuart Sternberg took over the Rays in the mid-2000s, he acknowledged Tropicana Field's shortcomings and repeatedly proposed new stadium plans. His first attempt in 2007 to build a downtown St. Petersburg stadium failed due to local opposition, continuing to face resistance from city officials, who enforced the team's lease until 2027. The Rays instead invested $35 million in Tropicana Field upgrades, including the notable cow-nose Ray tank. By 2014, frustrated with the lack of progress, Sternberg explored relocating the team to Montreal, later considering a split-season model between Tampa and Canada, which was widely criticized and soon abandoned. In 2018, the Rays proposed a new stadium in Tampa's Ybor City, but the plan failed due to lack of financial backing. Major League Baseball eventually pushed for a resolution, citing Tropicana Field as a major point of concern for the league as a whole long-term. With attendance declining, St. Petersburg sought redevelopment proposals for the stadium site, leading the Rays to hire consultant Heinz Co. In 2022, the team proposed a $1.3 billion stadium within a $6.5 billion mixed-use district at Tropicana Field's current location, citing St. Pete's growing population as a justification for staying, even though the Trop's location was one of its main problems. In September 2023, the Rays, St. Petersburg, and Pinellas County reached an agreement to fund the stadium, with the city committing $600 million from a 6% tax on hotels and short-term rentals, Pinellas County adding $130 million for infrastructure, and the Rays covering $700 million on their own, partly through selling equity. The Rays would be able to keep all the revenue from the stadium while paying a lease to use the venue from the city, but would also be responsible for covering all repairs and upgrades in the future. The city of St. Petersburg and Pinellas County would both go through their own approval process to greenlight the stadium and the necessary funding, with Pinellas County giving the final okay in late July 2024. However, less than 3 months later, Hurricane Milton devastated Florida's Sun Coast. It was the second most intense Atlantic hurricane ever recorded over the Gulf of Mexico, and once it made landfall on October 9th, the entire city of St. Petersburg was quickly devastated. Tropicana Field was prepared before the storm to be a base camp for first responders for before and after the storm, but no one was allowed inside during the hurricane itself. This turned out to be incredibly wise thinking, as Hurricane Milton made its way through St. Petersburg in an almost direct hit, ripping the entire roof of Tropicana Field to shreds. The storm winds and heavy rain then quickly tore the inside of the stadium apart as well. Luckily, no one was present inside the stadium at the time of impact. The community's focus in the short term was on recovery, but it wouldn't be long before the drama around the Rays' new stadium proposal would have to be dealt with. You might say, hey, funding has been approved for a new stadium and the old one is wrecked. They should just start building the new stadium, and the Rays should play somewhere else for a while. Well, regardless of what happens, the Rays would be forced to play somewhere else in George M. Steinbrenner Field across the bay in Tampa proper, which is the home to the Yankees spring training and their affiliate team. But still, why couldn't they just forget about Tropicana Field and focus on building the new stadium? Well, even if it broke ground in 2025, it would not be ready until 2028, 3 years from now, and the Rays remain legally obligated to play at the Trop during that time. In addition, minor league fields work on a temporary basis, but playing for a time period that long is not ideal and would significantly strap the team financially. Also, while the city and county approved and passed their portions of the funding plan, the Rays were in no position when the hurricane hit to put up the money needed to get construction started, including selling portions of the team. In fact, it's likely that the Rays hadn't even started down that path yet. The new stadium was also supposed to be part of a much larger multi-use district that would be built in phases, and suddenly deciding to drop or tear down Tropicana Field immediately would potentially require reworking the plan from funding and logistical perspectives entirely. Needless to say, building a new stadium is a multi-year process that doesn't happen overnight, and the Rays, Pinellas County, and St. Petersburg were locked into that process, making a quick pivot near impossible. So, with the Rays strapped for cash before the hurricane, and with the city and county having multiple mouths to feed during recovery, the quickest resolution was to pass a new set of funding measures to repair the damage to Tropicana Field. The clock was now ticking, with opening day less than 6 months away. On October 31st, 2024, the St. Petersburg City Council approved $6.5 million in remediation. This amounted to clearing away debris from the roof and removing the saturated turf field, as well as waterproofing parts of the interior of the stadium that were still salvageable. It was later determined that the Trop's roof had outlived its engineered life by 10 years, as it was originally installed in 1990. Further assessment concluded that $55 million would be needed to repair the roof and prepare the stadium for opening day in 2025, something that city officials were willing to put the work in to make happen, but the Rays didn't seem too grateful for that. On November 14th, 2024, the team announced that they would play all of the 2025 season at George Steinbrenner Field, which created more problems than it solved. With the rush to fix the Trop removed, remediation efforts were now up in the air, and the city didn't know whether to get the funds together to fix the Trop in the event the team decides to come back to St. Pete, or whether to focus solely on building a new stadium, or even if the Rays still wanted to do that, and no one knew if they even could afford to. Regardless of assumed priorities, under the terms of the lease, the city was legally obligated to repair the roof, and the team is legally obligated to play there for at least 3 more seasons unless the two parties agree to a settlement. But now advisors were saying that making repairs in time for the 2026 season would be a stretch, while city officials said it was definitely possible. Without clear leadership in the matter, Major League Baseball stepped in and said it would hire an independent advisor to make sure the city repaired the Trop, and that the Rays returned to the stadium to play out their lease. Around the same time this was revealed, Rays president Matt Silverman sent an email to the St. Petersburg city administrator that said that the Rays now, quote, support and expect the city to rebuild Tropicana Field after it suffered damage from Hurricane Milton, and St. Pete was fully on board with this path forward. Absent from the conversation, however, was the agreed-upon $1.3 billion new stadium project. Throughout December 2024, the city and county had continued meeting to approve bond purchases and related matters, while the Rays remained inactive. After a vote later that month, the Rays officially had until March 31st, 2025 to take action, which would release city funds and therefore begin construction. However, instead of completing these steps, Silverman and his counterpart Brian Auld accused Pinellas County of delaying a vote in October that resulted in a $150 million budget shortfall. Obviously, Pinellas County did not agree that a vote was delayed in October and did not follow the team's logic. The two parties then went back and forth at each other, both indirectly in public media and through direct communication. Clearly, the new stadium deal was falling apart, likely because the Rays didn't have the money to cover their portion of the project and were looking for a way out by blaming the county for the lack of progress. After decades of a terrible venue in the Trop, failed replacement attempts, relocation efforts, hurricane damage, ambiguity about the team's status, souring public support, and lackluster revenues, Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred had enough with the endless drama and asked Stu Sternberg to sell the Rays. It was already known that Sternberg was pursuing minority investors as part of the stadium deal, but he didn't directly respond to Sternberg's demand. 4 days later, Sternberg posted on X that the team was no longer pursuing a new stadium due to unforeseen circumstances related to Hurricane Milton, and instead wanted to return to the Trop in 2026 after repairs had been completed, and then focus on redeveloping the existing stadium and signing a new long-term lease. The drama would not stop there, however, as the city would now pursue reimbursement from the team for expenses relating to the stadium proposal. My takeaway from the original stadium deal as announced in 2023 was that it solved absolutely nothing except replacing the Trop. Location, in my view, remained the largest problem for the Rays, but I acknowledge that the team is really strapped to whoever is willing to give them public funding. The cash-strapped theme continues here. If the Rays had all the money in the world, they would build their own stadium in Tampa and forget St. Pete and the Trop entirely. However, it appears that the team doesn't even have the money to finance even half the cost of a new stadium, a theme starting to become more prevalent in Major League Baseball, where declining interest in the sport is meeting reality. As much as the Trop sucks, it has oddly become the Rays' only path to survival. I don't know for how long, but that's a question going around across the entirety of Major League Baseball. As of now, the The city has only passed funds to repair the Trop in incremental amounts, with $960,000 being approved in February, with more meetings already scheduled. And despite commitments to being ready, I have my doubts. For now, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens next, and we here at LaBrise TV will be watching closely.